a playwright born 2 months before Shakespeare, the official magician of Queen Elizabeth I, a man seen by the future as a martyr to science. They were connected by theater, espionage, and the occult in an age when skepticism and belief were not yet opposites. Nota bene, this is a work of fiction. Any resemblance to actual conversations in Hertfordshire woodlands is a statistical improbability.
Kit Marlowe, or Marlin, or Marlou, or Marlee. I'd say the registrar was having fun, but vowel sounds are changing so quickly these days, I really can't blame him. In the summer of '85, I was 21 years old, working on a Master of Arts at the University of Cambridge. There were rumors that I was moving to France to become a Catholic priest. The Channel was still an ocean for a shoemaker's son from Kent, and there were worlds I had yet to fall in love with. There was a bright, burning fire of rage and passion and glimmering, melting hope I was only beginning to learn to capture and project within the drumbeat of the human heart. I suppose I was grateful for having been conscripted to spy for the Queen. I had spent more time at university than my classmates, and there's only so much time you can spend translating Ovid before you start writing stuff that's definitely not there in the Latin. Spying was more bureaucratic than I had imagined. The type of danger involved didn't feel like being a piratical adventurer. It felt like being caught up in the petty human fallibilities of those that revered crowns over heaven and earth. In the past decade alone, Elizabeth's government had executed hundreds of people, but of course, you don't mention the bloodstains. Not if you don't want to become one. I was receiving an assignment to pass along secret correspondence from Her Majesty when I met Giordano Bruno for the second time.
Things are going reasonably well, considering. When I arrived in England, I actually had someone's good word rather than banishment. This good word was, in this case, from Philip III of France. I'd managed to convince him that being able to memorize large amounts of text didn't make me a witch. I wonder what he'd do if he found out about actors. I don't care about being protected by the Queen.
Yes, you do. I've read your papers. You wouldn't sing her praises in so many notes otherwise.
That's not what I meant.
You don't think it will last?
In my experience, it doesn't, but I might be proven wrong.
Proof of the pudding, etc.
What's that?
Some kind of blood sausage, probably. You think you're impervious to the changing winds and buffets of the consensus of public opinion.
Quite the contrary.
Why then did you proclaim your lack of investment in being protected?
Because it doesn't last.
I'm surprised you lasted as long in Geneva as you did.
Calvin is fascinating. He's got as much of everything wrong as anyone else, but it's nearly internally consistent, and I can appreciate that.
You made quite a scene in Oxford.
They're antagonistic toward anything new.
You climbed on the table.
I was giving a lecture.
Is it really so hard to keep your head down? Making enemies is not the way to spread ideas if you can manage, as I have, to be on the inside and outside all at once.
Do you know how many patrons I've had? How many protectors? Who we're spying for? Yet you, a peevish pedant from the provinces, deign to instruct me how to bear myself.
If you were succeeding, you would only need one patron.
After I made the Oxford Dons look like the fools they are, do you know what they did? Destroyed the evidence. Removed any trace of controversy from the records.
Are you trying to pass off a spectacular failure as a pièce de résistance?
If you knew what happened while you were 80 miles away on the banks of the Cam, I hardly failed.
My memories, not histories.
Could be.
You really think that? You see yourself turning the tides of time, personally ushering in an age of knowledge sought through reason and observation. The Church refuted. Aristotle defenestrated. All my life, I've been penalized for not following instructions, rewarded for obedience, and learned to craft dazzling subversion within the letter of the law. I learned swordplay from my sisters, but it was Lucian and Ovid that taught me how to handle words. A dull blade is of more use to me than text that lacks sharp edges, but only a fool carries their weapon unsheathed. I'm very careful. It's amazing what you can slip by some observers if you tile the roof with orthodoxy. It is the muses that sing to me and not the stars.
What do you think of Aristotle?
I was quite taken with his analytics.
Are you sure? Aristotle stands giant-like, opposed to reason and the pursuit of truth. He is the antithesis, the devil, the obscuring spilled ink blotting out centuries of human inquiry into the nature of reality. I consider him a personal enemy, and in no uncertain terms, I hate him.
Did you have a bad professor?
I'm beginning to think you did. I too once took at face value and believed the canon set forth by the ancients.
There is no hatred like a former love.
Must you speak in aphorisms?
It's not aphorisms, it's pentameter. I like being on the edges of things. I like that Corpus Christi wasn't the college that did all the plays. I like having breathing room to try things, and that collapses quite quickly if you're not careful. But I have to be doing something new. Trying to say something in a new way or something that hasn't been said before, because if I can and I don't, then what is the point? I'm just not always sure that I can. Sometimes I'm too in love with what I've read.
It is midsummer. You must perforce to London. Night falls, and you may hear the star song yet. You are young, and much further advanced toward the truth than I was at your age.
He's got an obsidian mirror. Is this a meeting of the Ninth Earl's Circle?
Not the wizard, Earl, the Queen. Kit Marlowe, meet the Queen's magician, Dr. John Dee. If anyone has figured out how to experiment from the center, how to make the most of royal patronage, he has.
I thought you didn't believe in centers.
I don't.
Good evening, Dr. D.
It is nearly morning.
When did you return from Poland?
Last week there was too much going on.
Is he a spy, too?
We've moved beyond spies and civilians. We are poets and philosophers here in the woods of Hertfordshire.
And occultists.
Ones that aren't going to end up in the Tower of London. Sons of merchants.
Your father clothed and furnished Henry VIII.
And tried to rescue Catherine of Aragon.
Didn't work, did it?
How is your Latin, Mr. Marlowe?
Phenomenal.
You might like to take a look at these.
Hermetica. That no one of existing things doth perish, but men in error speak of their changes as destructions and as deaths. How is this conceiving of the identity of objects? How is this defining destruction?
When wood is burned, it loses weight. But if it is burned in the sealed alembic, the weight of the whole system remains constant. Material is converted into smoke.
Wood burnt as charcoal. Charcoal burnt as ash. What once was is lost. This isn't philosophy.
The memory of the wood sustains. The air is full of the ghosts of wood pasts. 1,000 spirits of 1,000 things occupy the smallest corners of creation.
Quod est inferius, est sicut quod est superius. As above, so below. I suspect you're not interpreting this in the usual way.
You've heard of the sphere of the moon.
It divides the unchanging perfect heavens from the earth ruled by the ravages of time.
The moon is scarred. Its surface covered in craters like those made by falling stars and vast expanses of ancient lava flows. Sometimes stars appear on the sky for a matter of days and then disappear.
New stars. Supernovae.
We can't see the parallax of comets. They move far beyond the orbit of the moon. The heavens change. We know this with certainty. The Earth and other planets revolve around the sun, and the stars are far, far more distant than objects with retrograde movement. Yet, they are brighter than some of them. What does this indicate?
That they're larger, hotter, objects like the sun,
Eureka.
other suns.
Countless other suns, countless other worlds.
There's no evidence for that.
You talk to angels and demons. Why don't you ask them what they know?
They're mostly minor principalities. They probably don't have The boy is laughing at me.
No, sir.
Look up through the trees. Tell me what you see.
The sky, the stars.
Does it look perfect to you?
It looks wild, chaotic. An arc of dark clouds, dusty colors of rust and violet like the aftermath of an explosion hanging in the air. Gunpowder smoke, the remnants of a battle between angels and demons or gods. Only hanging in the air because Because everything out there happens so much slower. Or so much bigger. It does look perfect. It sings to me like you said it would, a wild, mad sky speaking to my soul.
The view of a poet. You can make no predictions from looking at the sky like that.
Hath John Dee no greater skill?
The heavens were the one constant in my life. Constant and unchanging.
Except for comets, eh?
It is organized according to its own music. Trees budding and leaves falling have their own rhythm, though they look messy. The year has 4 seasons that trace a circle. The galaxy appears in the same part of the sky, like clockwork.
Jupiter's palace, from whence Vulcan and Hercules fell, and to which Dee's stage automaton Scarab flew. What did they do with that anyway? I've looked for it in the basement of Trinity.
The Milky Way, yes. But look beyond that, around it.
It looks like salt on black cloth, or sparks.
Nearly homogeneous to the horizon, wouldn't you say?
Well, I can't really see the horizon. There are trees.
Let's say it is. What could we conclude from that?
I don't know.
Have you ever had pudding with currants in it?
Only since I've had a spy's salary.
Imagine it were translucent. From the point of view of each of the pieces of fruit, they're at the center.
But none of them actually are.
That's the relationship I think our world has to the rest of the universe.
That kind of revelation can topple kingdoms. No, shatter worlds, shatter entire cosmologies. And these poor demons don't even know. Their prince keeps them in ignorance.
That's not remotely what I said. I said there wasn't any evidence. Giordano Bruno is theorizing based on wild speculation.
One must take into account contradictions in observations. For thousands of years, people thought the sun went around the earth, and even you must appreciate that that is no longer the case.
Not publicly, but I concede the point.
And there is movement in space.
There is.
If there are millions of other worlds, there must be other people out there. Watching the sky, coming to the same conclusions, having the same arguments. You know, Lucian wrote about people from other worlds. But he framed them as an impossibility, or at least something to be satirized, or perhaps a new way of looking at what happens here, in our own place and time. Maybe one day we will find a way to travel to other worlds.
There's a young man named Kepler in Baden-Württemberg who said something similar. But he also says that you can't fall down if you're lying on the ground. You can't go unnoticed forever. Your sisters may have taught you how to survive bringing a stick to a sword fight, but you would do well to keep better armed than your enemies. Things are changing. With any luck, we'll be around to see it.
You seek knowledge beyond the bound of what is known to humankind. More than wealth or love or power, you seek to know the unknown. But what if the universe isn't equipped to give you the knowledge that you want? That you burn for as desperately as air if you were drowning? What if all that the world knows how to do is put on a good show?
Christopher Marlowe was killed in a tavern in Deptford 6 years after leaving the University of Cambridge, possibly assassinated for his views or involvement in events related to the Babington plot against Queen Elizabeth. Giordano Bruno was arrested by the Roman Inquisition 2 months before Marlowe's death and executed in 1600. John Dee outlived both of them, dying at the age of 81. Other Sons was written, edited, and produced by Emily Stevens. Christopher Marlowe was played by Katie Bevel. Giordano Bruno was played by Cole Meldorf. John Dee was played by Liam Flanagan. The narrators were Robert Carwillo and Cameron Bernstein.